The Central State Show usually doesn't disappoint, and this year's accompanying World Coin Platinum auction from Heritage was no exception to that. Here are some of the highlights. We'll start off with a rather exquisite gold medal from the Royal Geological Society, honoring Dr. John Ball, a geologist and seemingly unintentional cartographer whose groundbreaking expeditions to the Western Desert, the Sinai, and the Nile Valley provided some of the first detailed maps of these regions and identified valuable mineral deposits in Egypt. Graded by PCGS as SP67, this medallic masterpiece was sold at auction for $49,200. George II holds the distinction, or perhaps the record, for being the final English monarch to ride into battle alongside his troops. Only 2 years after this gold 5 guinea piece was minted in 1741. This luminous gold coin has eye appeal that far outstrips the technical grade of MS61 as awarded by NGC, and by the auctioneer's final call, it had managed to raise the sum of $57,600. When George V became king in 1911, little could he know that over the course of his 25-year reign, the winds of change would sweep across Europe to gather into a near unstoppable tempest, and by the time that his son took the reins of the empire, and eventually his granddaughter would become queen, the world would look very different indeed. This £5 coin was minted to celebrate his coronation in 1911, graded by PCGS as Proof 67 Cameo. It saw a closing price at auction of $60,000. A silver crown, or 5-shilling coin from 1845, is now presented for consideration. This is the precursor to the more renowned Victorian Gothic crown that would make its debut only a few short years later. But here already, engraver William Wyon demonstrates his keen eye for detail that would become so crucial to design that famous coin. A reminder that a coin, in fact, in its own right, can be a work of art. Graded by NGC as Proof 64, it raised $78,000 at auction. A true treasure of English numismatics, this 1702 Queen Anne coin is the first guinea pattern ever struck by the Royal Mint, and today fewer than 5 coins are known to exist. We can deduce this from the royal warrant of June 30th, 1702, where Queen Anne directs to change the reverse AR cipher to a rose, as well as adjusting the bare bust to include some drapery. All features that were added or included on subsequent patterns and eventually the regular circulating coin as well. A phenomenal rarity that few ever have the opportunity to observe. Graded by NGC as AU55 and at auction was sold for $102,000. One of the most tumultuous and also numismatically most fascinating periods in British history were the years of the decades of the Civil War, Commonwealth, and subsequent Restoration. The next 2 coins very neatly, well, almost bookends this particular era, starting with the 1649 Triple Unite from Charles I, as much a piece of propaganda as it was currency, immortalizing his Wellington Declaration, promising to uphold the Protestant religion, the laws of England, and the liberty of Parliament. This example is graded by PCGS as AU53 and was sold at auction for $84,000. Then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, we have the Oliver Cromwell pattern of 1656. Here we have a broad of 20 shillings struck in gold, one of the rarest and most sought after of all British gold coins. Again here, the aim was more propagandist than practical. The irony, of course, is that it was all for naught, largely speaking, as the monarchy would be restored less than 5 years after this coin was minted. This rare example is graded today as proof 63 by PCGS and managed to raise $126,000 at auction. When Queen Victoria was crowned as queen in 1837 at the tender age of only 18, few could have predicted that hers would become the longest reigning monarchy in British history, only to be supplanted by her great-great-granddaughter, Queen Elizabeth II, more than a century later. But in 1887, her Golden Jubilee was celebrated after reigning for 50 years, and the Golden Jubilee £5 coin stands as the marquee coin produced by the mint to celebrate this occasion. This example is slabbed by PCGS as proof 66 plus deep cameo and achieved a closing price at auction of $168,000. Inevitably, when the name of King Edward VIII is mentioned, the subject of his abdication in 1937 comes to bear. But for coin collectors, the attention shifts slightly adjacent towards the proof pattern coins from the same year. Now, the only surviving coins from the royal mint to officially bear his image as king. Supposedly, when Edward requested a set of these coins as a keepsake after his abdication, he was denied the privilege as the coins were never officially issued for circulation. Here we see a rare halfpenny in a matte-proof finish, graded by NGC as proof 64 brown, which was sold at auction for $180,000. The enigmatic and impressively large 10 louis d'or, weighing in at more than 2 ounces of pure gold, was struck for Louis XIII. This example, dated as 1640, remains shrouded largely in mystery to this very day, with the most significant and persistent point of discussion being the purpose of these rare gold coins. Some believe that they were patterns, explaining their rarity, to be sure, while others have postulated that they were essentially fantasy coins, minted by the Paris Mint, to be sure, but exclusively for the king's use at his poker tables, while more contemporary scholars have come to believe that they were in fact intended for commerce. This example is graded as AU 50 details by NGC, as the coin was once cleaned, and at auction it sold for $264,000. And of course, if you like British numismatics at all, then our next coin hardly requires any introduction. The much coveted 1839 Una and the Lion quintuple sovereign, a coin intended to celebrate the inception of the reign of Queen Victoria, included originally in the 1839 proof set. The exact mintage of the coin remains uncertain today, but it is estimated that at least 400 pieces. Here we see a fantastic example with stunning cameo, graded by NGC as proof 62 ultra cameo, which was sold at auction's end for $312,000. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch another video about excellent world coins right here.